So, Matt, hello, first of all.
Hello.
And I know each day is different, but how are you doing today?
Well, I just spoke with my stepmother, and she's very encouraging. And I took Andros to school, and I feel like I'm doing pretty well.
You are.
I got him to laugh. It's good to see your kid laugh.
Was that the first real laugh you'd seen since the passing?
Oh, no. I make sure to make him laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a little bit of comedy and joy in life every day.
How do you comfort him? Have you found the words to comfort him?
My approach with Andros about losing Halyna from the very beginning has been to be very direct. She'll always be his mother, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about her.
It's been 4 months since
It has been.
Halyna passed. I didn't know her, but I know you loved her. I mean, that's apparent sitting across from you in this moment. When you first met Halyna, was it wow? Was it like fireworks? What was it like?
Pretty much.
Was it? You knew right away?
It was pretty magical meeting her. I was in college. She was in the States on a student visa. She had been studying journalism in her master's program. And sort of on a lark, she had come to South Carolina at the end of her 2 years. And I just kind of bumped into her when I left class one day. I saw her and I was like, wow, whoa, how do I talk to this girl? And so we struck up a conversation there. And I said, can I have your phone number? And she said, I don't have a telephone. I thought, that can't be true.
That's a line, right?
And so I told her where I worked, and she came and saw me there. And so we started dating after that. We got married in January after we met in April.
I see your wedding ring. Does that give you comfort?
I like to think about her, and then this is her engagement ring that I got her when we got engaged. It was a magical time being engaged and knowing we were going to be married, and still not knowing what the future held, but having that horizon that we were going to go towards together.
How does it feel having it on your finger?
It's nice to remember her.
So here we are, by the way, at AFI. We're sitting in this beautiful room, a place that actually made a scholarship in her honor, in her name, because she made such an impact on women in this industry where there are so few.
AFI has quite a history, and Halyna was really excited to study here. It's a demanding program for cinematographers, the top program. And so she knew that she had to really work hard. But she had a vision, and she was incredibly ambitious. That was one thing that right away when I met her, I saw her ambition.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, if I could have that ambition in my life, what could I accomplish?
Wow.
And so when she got here, I knew that she was on her track.
She was on her track. Well, it sounds like you guys were having a pretty perfect life. You, Halyna, she had this career, this budding career, and then baby made 3. Did she always want to be a mom?
She was a very joyful mother. She really loved it.
There was a picture that struck me so deeply, and it was she and Andros nose to nose. And when I saw that, I thought, that's pure. That's the purest image.
Well, that's just her and him. The funny thing is there are other pictures of her just like that.
Yeah.
And she just felt that connection and just loved him so much.
Let's talk about her professionally, because, there are moments in one's career where they get an assignment or a job, and it is a big one. And I feel like Rust must have been that for her. It had a big star, Alec Baldwin. It was a big movie. What was she saying in anticipation of going on this assignment?
Well, we talked a lot about her career, and when Rust came along, she knew that this was going to be a springboard for her career because it was the right combination of people and story, the plan for the production. She wanted to do a Western. She had done horror films and wanted to expand her repertoire. And so we were watching Westerns and talking about it, and she was very excited.
So were you guys in communication when she got there? I saw some of her Instagram posts that she was riding a horse. It was pre-dawn. It was beautiful. What did she say early on about what it was like having this experience?
She called every night to say goodnight to Andros, as long as it was possible to do so. But she did communicate that working with Joel was great. Working with a male director was not the norm for her, but she felt like she was getting the respect that she needed in order to do her job and really get the shots that she wanted. But as far as riding horses and things, that was on her days off, and she was so excited about that.
Do you remember the last conversation that you had with her?
I think it would have been Tuesday night, because they had an early call on Thursday the 21st. And so I don't think we spoke Wednesday night. And I think that was the conversation where she talked about the horseback riding, and she had taken a fishing trip in Taos, and she was having the time of her life. She was just so excited about how everything was going so well, and just wanted to see Andros and say goodnight to him and get to sleep.
How did you learn that something was wrong?
Well, I was in the office that day. I received the call, and a member of the production team told me that Halyna had been shot. And my heart sank right away, because I had no idea what could have happened. It was completely inexplicable to me that it could have happened at that moment. And the first thing I thought, I sat down and I said, I have to get my son, because I had to be with him. And so I rushed home, and on the way decided that we had to go to Santa Fe. And it was all happening so fast at that moment. I didn't know what her condition was. They said that she had been stable. And so I got home, threw a suitcase together, got in the car, and headed to pick up my son. When I got through to the doctor and spoke with him, and he detailed exactly what had happened and that she didn't survive, I mean, I was heartbroken. And I knew that I had to tell my son right away when I saw him. And it was so turbulent. I was getting calls from the production team and from Joel, and he didn't know what had happened. And he was in the hospital, and I told Joel that she had not survived. And of course he was distraught, and he was in quite a state, because he was shot as well. And he explained to me that they had taken a bullet out of his shoulder, and that's when I knew what had happened, because I couldn't, in my mind, comprehend what would have happened. And so I went to meet Andros and get on a plane, and I knew I had to tell him. And so we sat down, and he was cheerful and bubbly, like a child always is when they see their parent and they're going somewhere. And I told him, sitting together, that his mother had been shot and died. And of course he didn't believe it right away. He didn't want to believe it.
What did he say?
Well, I think that kind of news you just have to say multiple times so that it can be believed. And so he believed it, and we cried together then, and all the way through the airport.
You said your son was in a state of disbelief. I was thinking, when you got the call, were you too?
At first.
Yeah.
When I spoke with the Rust team, I was in a state of disbelief.
Yeah.
But when I spoke with the hospital, they gave me enough details that I could understand and believe it. And I also spoke with the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office, and when they told me about their investigation as a criminal matter, I understood that, it was real and that it was being taken seriously. And I made it real for myself.
Can I ask you a question? Have you gotten a minute not to rationalize, have you had time to just crack it open and let it out?
I had an experience like that last week watching the announcement of the filing of the lawsuit and hearing the lawyers speak about it. I was glad I wasn't there. It was very emotional for me.
Alec Baldwin called you afterwards, and there was an embrace and a meal. Tell me what that was like.
I feel like to understand that moment, you have to remember the shock we were in and the confusion of it all. And, we woke up in Albuquerque that day. I spoke with Mr. Baldwin and was just looking for a way through the storm. And I felt like going to Santa Fe and seeing him would be good for me and Andros to understand what happened.
Did he seem distraught during that time?
There were a lot of emotions, for
Yeah.
sure, on both sides.
Yeah.
I did feel that we were both going through the same process of realizing what had happened.
Yeah.
Because the shock of it was present for people who were there that day, just like it was for us. And that first night in Santa Fe, there was a big room with a vigil in her honor to talk about it, and with people there to try and help start the healing process for everyone connected with Rust. And I spoke that night out of the belief that the people who were there shouldn't be traumatized by their experience in a way that would prevent them from going back to work someday. Because that's not what she would have wanted.
You seem like you're always, working outside to help to make sure everybody is okay. Is that part of who you are?
Well, I think maybe you've put your finger on it, that when you put yourself outside of yourself and think about others, then sometimes your own emotions seem a little more trivial and manageable and not so overwhelming. And having compassion for others and what they're going through can really help you keep your perspective.
Alec Baldwin did an interview on television, and it was a highly promoted interview. Did you watch it?
Yeah. Well, as you said, it was promoted. And so I saw the promos. And, I can only describe how I felt knowing it was coming as dread. Just terror at what he was going to say. Maybe a little bit of hope that there could be something good in there.
I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
But watching him, I just felt so angry. I had been overcome by this anger when I saw Halyna at the funeral home, and it all really crystallized. And so that I was trying to manage that anger, and it really came out when I was watching him. I was just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way, and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her.
So that's how you think it was Alec Baldwin was responsible for killing her?
Well, in the lawsuit that we filed, we've detailed a number of ways that he and others were responsible for her death.
Yeah.
It was preventable, and she deserved to live.
So do you think that the majority of the blame lays on Alec Baldwin?
The idea that the person holding the gun, causing it to discharge, is not responsible is absurd to me. Every individual who touches a firearm has a responsibility for gun safety. But gun safety was not the only problem on that set. There were a number of industry standards that were not practiced, and there's multiple responsible parties.
In the interview, just to put a fine point on what you were saying, Alec Baldwin said, "Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me." I mean, honest to God, if I felt I was responsible, I might have killed myself if I thought I was responsible, and I don't say that lightly. He said, essentially, he felt grief but no guilt.
almost sounds like he was the victim. And hearing him blame Halyna in the interview and shift responsibility to others and seeing him cry about it, I just feel like, are we really supposed to feel bad about you, Mr. Baldwin? I mean, that just heightened my anger so much that was the purpose of him going in front of the country that way. And I felt like it was so unnecessary.
In your lawsuit, you guys alleged that the gun went off, he fired the gun, however we interpret that at that point, and he stood there and did not go to help, did not go to assist or to the aid of Halyna or Joel. He said in his interview that he, in fact, stood over her for 60 seconds, he guessed.
Well, I wasn't in the room, but I do think a lot about what was going through her mind while she was there dying, trying to understand what happened. And I think she would have been very confused, very maybe lost in thought about life and what could have happened, or maybe thinking about me and Andros and our future, or all the things that we wouldn't do together. But nobody knows really what happened in her mind at that time. And I can't speak to the minds of others as they were there.
Yeah.
In a statement, Baldwin's attorney says any claim that Alec was reckless is entirely false.
When you had the earlier conversation with him, did he describe what had happened when you had that conversation with him before?
When we met with Mr. Baldwin and he gave us his account of the facts, he described substantially what he said in the interview. It was difficult to hear it, but I was obviously rapt because this is what happened from the person who caused it to happen. And I'm glad that we could get that perspective, and we've talked to everyone that we could who was there that day to understand more. And there are just a lot of details that you get from different perspectives. People in the room, may have slightly different memories of things, but we prepared the video to show what happened based on our investigation. The lawyers did. Safety
on the set was a big deal on this film. I mean, there were some crew members who walked off the set that very morning saying that, safety was not kept at a high enough priority. One crew member emailed the producers that day during the filming of the gunfights on his job saying things are often played very fast and loose. There are no safety meetings on these days. There are the reports of other accidental discharges. I mean, what picture does that paint to you?
So as we've described in the lawsuit, there were a number of ways that safety was an issue. And that safety standards were not followed, including basic firearm safety, but also other industry standards. In the wake of what happened, I was trying to piece together, and we've done an investigation to understand as much as we could. And it's apparent that there are people who are responsible for Halyna's death because of these failures. And the walk-off of the camera crew is just a part of a bigger picture in which safety was compromised.
When do you miss her the most?
Looking at pictures of her, there are moments when I'm transported back to those times, and I can feel, how wonderful it was. And then there are moments when I think about just the things that she won't do. I saw a picture of her smiling the other day, and I just thought, she'll never smile again. And that's really hard.
She had a beautiful smile. She really did. Yeah.
I also miss her when Andros and I are having fun together. It's something I would have wanted her to be together with us for the holidays, and just enjoying our new home together. We really wanted that, and she'll never be there.
In your mind's eye, what does justice look like?
We're pursuing justice every way we can in the sense of going through this process together and with the lawsuit seeking to hold accountable the people who are responsible for Halyna's death, which was totally preventable. And there's also obviously a criminal process which is independent, and we're cooperating with that. But in the end, justice won't bring Halyna back, but maybe the memory of her can help keep people safe and prevent something like this from ever happening again. So I think that's part of it too.
If you had your way, would Alec Baldwin be tried criminally?
Well, I think the district attorney is going to make their own decision on that. And, we're waiting to hear, just like the rest of the world, about their decision. That their investigation is independent and based on the facts and the law. And I think we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah. You are an attorney, so you know how all of these waters are navigated. One of the things I just wanted to underscore too is in Alec Baldwin's interview on ABC, he was asked, there are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set no matter what, and his response was, unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. That day I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it.
Well, an industry standard is there for a reason, and gun safety reasons are, that's human life at stake. So I think we can't be in the room with him when that was happening, but he should have done what was safe. And the safe thing is to never point a gun at a person and always assume that they're dangerous.
And your attorneys were saying that by making those statements, he was essentially blaming your wife.
Well, I think in the interview, Mr. Baldwin did what he could to blame other people, and Halyna was one of them. And I felt like that was a bit dishonest on his part.
Mm-hmm. How did you get the anger out after watching it?
Oh, deep breathing.
Yeah. But some people say these lawsuits are about money. People they just want to sue and they want to get money.
The people who caused Halyna's death have to be held responsible. And accountability in that way is part of a bigger process of understanding what happened, of establishing the facts, of pursuing just whatever we can do right now so that when we look back, things will have some sort of logic to them in how we come to understand what happened to her and make the people who caused her death responsible. And that responsibility is going to have an impact in terms of keeping other people safe. And so I would never want anyone who heard about this to take gun safety lightly.
What do you think Halyna's legacy will be?
Well, for me and Andros, her legacy is as his mother. And, she was my wife for 16 plus years, 17 years together. And, she really taught me a lot about living and loving, and Andros certainly has a foundation from his years with her. I also want her legacy as an artist to live. AFI has created the scholarship in her name. I think that's part of her legacy.
I know it's exhausting, reliving all this stuff, so thank you. I know it was not easy, but it meant a lot, so thank you.
Well, you're a very lovely person, and
it's
nice being here with you.
I feel all the vibes, feel all the good vibes.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.